Okay, so we're here at Chapter 5 headquarters, and I am with the fantastic Helena Coggan, who is the author of The Catalyst, which is our new YA sci-fi fantasy crossover novel. It's completely brilliant, and we've got it here with its lovely, shiny, gorgeous cover. I'm going to show you the front and the spine and the back, so it's looking pretty cracking. So, Helena, can you give us just a quick overview of what The Catalyst is about?
Well, yes, it's about a teenage girl called Rose who lives in a futuristic, certainly in the future society where half the population has magic and half doesn't. And she and her adopted father are part of a government organisation called the Department, which is fairly brutal, and is tasked with cleaning up after the less palatable elements of their society, which, with the inclusion of magic, are very unpalatable indeed. And they themselves have a very dangerous secret which they have to keep from everyone, including the Department, at all costs, and this cannot go wrong, as you can imagine, until it does.
Did you always know that you wanted to write fantasy? Was there anything that drew you to it?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I've always wanted to write fantasy because, I mean, as a child, the idea of magic and the idea of escaping the laws of reality is always appealing. And as I got a little bit older, that translated into what I was writing. Writing short stories in the playground before any of this was happening. So I always knew I wanted to write fantasy and sci-fi because that just fascinated me. And also, it was quite a good way of circumventing the fact that any given reader would probably be an adult, would probably be older than 13 as I was at the time, and therefore would probably know a lot more about what 21st century real life London was actually like than I was. So if I tried to write 2012 London as it was at the time, I would probably just gloss over massive elements of what life was like, because I didn't know they were there. So I had to change the rules. I had to use London because I knew I wanted to. I knew that half the magic of the book, as it were, would come from setting the wonders and the beauty of sci-fi and fantasy against the kind of grim world weariness of the average Londoner. But I needed to change that so that I could say, yes, this is absolutely real about London, and no one could query it. I needed to personalise the city, and sci-fi and fantasy was the easiest way to do that. It's the only way to do that, and I love the genre, and I'm very glad I chose to write it.
So you could essentially make up your own rules.
That's the idea.
I like it.
That's the idea.
So Helena, were there any particular writers or novels you drew inspiration from when you were writing The Catalyst?
Well, a lot of. I tried to read widely. Obviously, I keep coming back to sci-fi because that's what I love. But I try to absorb from everything I read. But I think the one that influenced me the most was Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because it played on the concept that sci-fi and fantasy, for all its wonder, was essentially just really weird, and because it is. I mean, the whole concept is slightly strange. So that's what I wanted to use. I knew that again, I needed to have the kind of. It's easier to grasp the reader's attention instead of using like shock and awe tactics, which is this aspect of magic is incredibly wonderful, and the characters marvel at it for hours, and then instead of the characters go, oh yeah, we have magic, we've had that for ages, which is an easy way to make the reader do a double take. You've got what? But yes, I always thought The Hitchhiker's Guide. You have to love The Hitchhiker's Guide.
You do. This is true. So Helena is slightly younger than the average novelist. So she's still at school. So how do you balance your writing with your schoolwork? How do you find that?
Well, I do usually write in my lunch breaks, which is about half an hour's worth of writing, and then when I get home, I do my homework, which, given that I'm in a GCSE year, it's quite a lot of it now, and then I get writing done. So I try to do all homework the night it's set, so I can start again with a clean slate the next day. So, which means I get a little bit of writing and a lot of homework done. And because writing has never been work to me. People go, well, why do you spend all your lunchtime doing it? Of course I spend all my lunchtime doing it. I love it.
you were 13 when you started
Yes.
writing the novel, which is incredibly impressive. Did you ever imagine it being published when you started out?
I didn't let myself. I mean, obviously that was somewhere in my subconscious imaginings at the time, but I didn't start from nothing to I want to get a book published, because obviously then it would have seemed staggeringly implausible, as indeed it was. I promised myself when I was 10 that I would try to write a book before I was 13, and it was only after my 13th birthday when that promise had expired, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to do it, I may as well do it now. So I started I did it in stages. I imagined it in stages. My goal was not to get it published, obviously. It was, think of a decent premise. Fine, we've got a decent premise. Think of some characters, write them down. What are the characters like? Do they work? And then when I got them about a few thousand words, 10,000 words, fine. Let's see if you can develop an actual plot. And then let's see if you can get it to book length. And then the stages kind of stopped, because that was the point where I showed it to my parents. My parents gave me lots of useful advice about it, because I was 13, didn't have any of the expertise I thought I did. And so I edited it, and that was the goal then, get to the end of editing. And then, only then, did I start thinking, okay, maybe there is someone out there who could be, I don't know, hypnotised into publishing them. And only then did it become an actual dream, and then everything else from then on, which has been on a completely another level, because I'm still in the mindset of maybe one day I can get this published. I have to keep reminding myself, it is actually being published. No, it's not. Yes, it actually is. I have to convince myself, but I'm in heaven. I love this.
So it feels good to have the actual finished copy in your hands. Does it feel
Yes,
quite surreal?
for the benefit of people watching, I got this all of 20 minutes ago. So I'm still, again, in a state of shock, and I love it so much. It's I love the book. I love to have the cover of it. I'm very lucky in whoever's choice of illustrator it was.
It's looking very lovely.
Yes, it is.
And just to confirm for Chapter 5 readers, no one was hypnotised in any decisions. So, Helena, have you got any advice for kind of any other young writers out there, people who might be, you know, getting to the age of 10 and thinking, I'm going to write a book by the time I'm 13?
Allow yourself to realise that what you are trying to do is completely staggeringly implausible for about 10 seconds before you start working on it. Then don't think about it for years. Because if you allow yourself to, I mean, I didn't. My whole strategy was just to put blinders on myself and go, I'm not going to think about how stupidly implausible it is that this is ever going to actually happen. You just have to keep going. You have to ignore the odds at all costs, because the only thing that can come of thinking about the difficulty of what you're trying to achieve is that you stop doing it, and then you have no chance of doing it. So you just have to ignore the odds and focus on the fact that you're doing something you love, and whether or not anything actually comes of it, you will still have had the best time of your life, which I have. And I was having even before anyone decided to publish it.
Right, so Chapter 5 viewers, I think that concludes my Q&A with Helena. Helena, thank you so much for coming and chatting to us. And Catalyst is publishing on the 19th of February. It's absolutely wonderful, and yeah, it's been great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.